What is it about the stars? Us humans, since our inception, have looked up and cast our eyes to the heavens. This separate world, both so close yet just out of our reach, has inspired us, frightened us, shaped our world and how we view our place in it. We've left echoes of ourselves on the moon, on distant planets, even interstellar space. But all of this exploration, all of these achievements in space, it wasn't completely born out of the urging of curiosity, the longing for answers to what's out there. It was also born out of a war. A Cold War. But I am kind of getting ahead of myself. See, all of these questions I have, all of these sudden ideas when it comes to space, it all started because of an email. Man, up the kid. I kind of struggle when I think about the past, but it's past so I get to try not to ask.
Tyreek.
Yes, Jericho.
It appears you have a new email.
As always, you astonish me with your capabilities, Jericho. Send it to my computer, I'll check it later.
You'll want to read this one now.
Yeah, just completely disregard what I say. What is the point of having an AI if... Well, NASA. Holy sh... My first thought was, oh my god, NASA. Like the NASA. I had submitted an application to receive media credentials from them, almost as a shot in the dark. But now, that shot had bore fruit, and revealed to me an opportunity to which I had never thought possible. On the 10th and 11th of October, NASA was to hold an event unveiling the first ever samples taken from an asteroid, something never done before in its history. And now I was to be part of this historic unveiling. But soon, the initial euphoria began to simmer, and suddenly, I was left with questions. What is an Osiris-REx? What the heck is a Bennu? And most of all, how did we get here? I did not know it, but this was the beginning of what would become my own exploration of the cosmos, and inadvertently, human beings. It was then that I realized that if I wanted to truly appreciate the journey I was about to embark on, fully grasp the gravity of what was to come, I would need to start from the beginning. Though NASA's earliest roots stretched back to the start of the 20th century, what we know it as today began to manifest in the aftermath of the Second World War and at the height of geopolitical tensions. This conflict between nations, its populations, and their opposing ideologies ushered in a new era that was plagued by a constant struggle for dominance, expressed in a myriad of different ways. One of these ways, the space race. What began as gradual plans and proposals would soon shift into a full-blown crisis when, on October 4th, 1957, the Soviets launched Sputnik 1, the world's first artificial satellite. They would follow up just 1 month later with Sputnik 2, this time with a passenger on board, Laika the dog, who would become the first living organism sent into orbit. America would follow 4 months later with their own satellite, Explorer 1. And though their response was rapid, Americans around the country were left shaken and stirred by anxiety. The space race had officially begun, and it was Sputnik 1's unassuming beeps that served as the Soviet starting pistol. The Americans were behind, and something needed to be done. And on October 1st, 1958, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration began operations. The dawn of NASA. A month, Jericho. We literally only have a month, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be.
Technically 27 days, but I understand the sentiment. May I ask, what exactly is it you're trying to accomplish?
I'm just trying to piece it all together, you know? How do we get here to this mission? Why do we explore in the first place? Who are we?
I thought you said you were doing this just for the media credentials.
I am. I've just been having some thoughts. Just tell me more about the mission.
Well, Osiris-REx launched on September 8th in the year 2016.
Okay, so Osiris-REx is the spacecraft.
Correct.
And Bennu is the asteroid.
Yes.
Okay. And why Bennu? Why was that one chosen specifically?
Primarily its composition. Bennu is made up of organic materials crucial to life itself. Its very makeup could be a record into the earliest history of the solar system. There's also the fact that it's relatively close to the planet, and scientists can gather studies related to asteroids and their potential collision course with Earth.
Oh, you're giving me the why, but not the why.
Perhaps because the answer you seek is a philosophical one which I cannot provide. Take a step back, rest. You're too close to everything. You've been jotting down notes on that ceiling for 2 weeks straight. Your behavior has been borderline manic.
Okay, now you're just being dramatic. I wouldn't say all that.
Distance may offer the perspective you're looking for, Tyreek.
But rest did not come, even as I shut my eyes against the dark. Even in my slumber, I could not escape the cosmos. They had achieved hegemony in both my sleeping and waking mind. In my dreams, the universe and I were tethered to each other. An invisible connection that stretched across billions of light years in time and space itself. But even here, the answers I sought were just as elusive. But it did offer what Jericho had said, a different perspective. You know, I think I'm finally starting to get it, Jericho. It's like we've got Neil Armstrong, the Apollo missions, the moon landing. We've got the Curiosity rover on Mars, the International Space Station. It's these accomplishments, they speak to who we are. You're being uncharacteristically silent.
Your new sense of thinking is skewed.
Okay, so I listened to your advice and take a step back. I'm now here with more clarity than ever, but my thinking is skewed now. I'm confused.
Because you've completely disregarded what the story is even about. You said yourself that you want to fully appreciate this journey and what mankind did to get here. But so far, you've only been focusing on the achievements, the triumphs. That's not a linear path. That's not reality. You need to reckon with the failures and trials as well. The times when you all failed. The times when you flew too close to the sun.
He was right. In my travels down this vast rabbit hole of research, I had begun constructing large foundations of hubris. The space race saw both the United States and Soviet Union achieve incredible feats in short periods of time. NASA's Project Mercury was the program that saw the first Americans reach space and orbit the Earth. But this was only after Yuri Gagarin from the USSR accomplished it first. The two countries were still neck and neck for dominance of the stars. Escalations in the race prompted President Kennedy to order NASA to put a man on the moon and safely return home before the decade was over. The age of the Apollo missions was here. And finally, on July 20th, 1969, for the first time in the history of our species, a human stepped foot on a world outside of our own. One small step for man, one giant leap for him. But getting here, stepping foot on the moon, did not come easy. It was a long road filled with sacrifice. Apollo 1, the fire that ravaged those 3 American heroes. And even after the moon landings. Apollo 13, men trapped in space. The Challenger disaster. The nation watches on in horror as soaring astronauts soar even higher and become angels. But even with those tragedies, all those setbacks, we still pushed on. Surely then, it cannot be hubris that guides us forward. Not when we've lost so much to get here. I would have to shift my thinking yet again in my quest for answers, as my journey to Houston grew closer.
Toothbrush.
Check.
Camera.
Check.
Underwear.
2 pair.
Pack 3.
Okay.
So you're headed straight to the airport when you leave here?
Actually going to the barbershop to get my hair braided and then the airport.
Your heart rate is up. You're nervous.
When I applied for those media credentials, I didn't think I'd end up like this. It just feels like my mind's been unraveled with all these questions I have. It's not the main reason I'm going to Houston, but what if I get there and I don't find my answers?
These questions came to you for a reason. The same way Osiris-Rex's trajectory led it to Bennu and back, allow these questions of yours to do the same. Don't become overwhelmed by them, be guided by them.
You know, Jericho, you're not too bad.
Thank you. I'll remember you when we take over the world.
What?
What?
Okay, see you when I get back. My journey to Houston was now upon me, and it came with great fervor. It was also coupled with, not fear I would say, but a bubbling, underlining sense of anxiety. What was I to see? I had come to learn so much of NASA's rich history, and now, in a few days' time, I was going to be immersed in some of those same halls, see many of the same relics that were part of that history, and most importantly, Bennu, the asteroid that this event was all about. Would it be the key to my answers? The anticipation rivaled my heart as it beat within me like a drum. I busied myself in my hotel room by aimlessly wandering and jotting down in my notebook. I remembered the words of my parental AI, allow my questions to guide me. And guided I was. Craters, rovers, moon samples, I was surrounded by so much. Astronauts, lunar modules, they enveloped me. I walked the halls of mission control. Sat in chairs of people who had conducted countless space objectives. Viewed the progression of old technology to new. Witnessed and captured the engineering behind spacecraft, machinery that calls other planets their home, the science dealing with the future of space travel. Walked beside the most powerful rocket ever flown, the rocket that sent man to the moon. And with everything I saw, I finally began to see. Being around all of it shaped my mind and guided my vision to where I needed to go. And then it was time for Bennu, Citizens, scientists, and media personnel from all over had gathered to witness this history in the making. I took my seat in the front row and began to listen.
Days like this that continue to amaze me and what we do in this little agency. But it's a reflection of our country, our can-do spirit. America is defined by possibilities. And we've always been a nation that is restless unless we're pressing the unknown. For 65 years of NASA's existence, NASA has responded to America's call.
And it was there that it finally clicked for me. The answers to all my questions flooded me all at once. And the realization of these answers, they made me almost feel foolish. How had I troubled and misguided myself so much when the answer was so clear all along? After the event, I took one last look at Bennu behind those reinforced panes of glass. This asteroid, this mission, which had been years in the making, had now reached me and made clear how I factored into this great big story. I reveled at the final glimpses of everything NASA had to offer me. It was the end of my journey. And I would return home, completely changed by the experience.
Tyreek, you still haven't told me about your trip. What did you learn?
Curiosity and expansion, they make up the very essence of every human being. The same way a dog barks or a bird flies is simply part of our nature. They were the things guiding me this entire time. Curiosity leads us to explore, and that exploration allows us to expand to new frontiers, each time reaching a place higher than where we began. And what I've come to realize is that when we look to the stars, to the vastness of the universe, we see a mirror. The cosmos reflect back to us the enormous potential of what is and what can be. In the universe and in ourselves, we see the chaotic beauty that is existence itself. And as we've grown throughout the ages, the measure of how we view ourselves has constantly been shaped by how far we can reach. Space has always been that taunting, otherworldly force just out of reach. And we may never get all the answers to what we're looking for out there. Perhaps the answers lie in the journey itself. NASA revolutionized our minds and shifted the idea of what it is we can achieve, both on this planet and off of it. It's always been our Daedalus, our ever-giving architect. And we, this nation of Icarus,